have the luxury of those ones. Good afternoon, everyone. I know that we are running a little bit late, but hopefully we are going to have a very exciting conversation with some wonderful people and thought leaders on this panel. My name is Portia Salehi. I'm the head of Urban Research, Innovation and Development at ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, and co-chair of Research and Innovation Technical Working Group at Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. We all know that where we are today, and we've heard a lot of times from different experts over the course of the past couple of days in terms of the need to scale up the solutions and activities and how much we need to reduce emissions, how much we need to avoid emissions. And particularly this year, until the start of October, we've recorded 86 days with more than 1.5 degrees temperature rise compared to pre-industrial levels. Particularly September with 1.8 degrees above the pre-industrial levels was the hottest month this year. This all puts the challenge into context that we need transformation. But perhaps we should say transformation is already taking place. But the better question is is it at the scale and the speed that we need, and is it in the right direction? For that, we are happy to have this conversation around urban development, technology, human needs, and the next generation of smart cities, where we would like to discuss how to deploy technology in a direction that could guide the transformation that is desired to deliver flourishing lives for current and future 11 billion people. On that note, we would like to start with our colleague Rita Rinaldo from European Space Agency. They have recently established a task force to use space for smart and green cities, where technology is at the center of this, but it's not all of it. So for that, I would like to invite you, without any further ado, to listen to Rita and the presentation that she has prepared for us today. With regard to the task force, they launched 26th of September this year, the hottest month of the year. And then we'll connect the dots to human needs and the expanded climate and innovation agenda and the systemic innovation process under the leadership of the other two thought leaders that we have on the panel. Without any further ado, Rita, thank you so much for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, Purya, and it's my pleasure to be here today to explain you a bit of what we at the European Space Agency are doing in the context of smart cities and how we can help companies developing solutions using digital and space for the benefits of citizens, for the benefits of the communities in cities, and helping both decarbonization as well as sustainable development, actually. I have prepared a short contribution, so if we are ready to project it. Here it comes. Very good. So, okay, first of all, just a few words about the European Space Agency. So the European Space Agency is an intergovernmental organization with 22 member states joining, and headquarters are in Paris, but actually we are located in several establishments in Europe. And we are supporting cooperation between member states and between companies residing in ESA member states around a set of topics, and one very important one is applications. So how we help companies with brilliant ideas about using space missions, space data, technologies for the benefits of society. In particular, the program I'm managing, the Business Application and Space Solution programs, has exactly these objectives. So how to promote the exploitation of space assets in different sectors of the economies and for the benefits of societies. So we reach out to extensive communities in different sectors, from mobility to energy, agri-food, and cities, of course, that, if you like, can group all these sectors in order to address the challenges faced by society today and in the future. We have three pillars that for us are very important, and the first one, I think it's very important for all of us today, that is sustainability. And actually, I mentioned 3 times sustainable because we look at economic sustainability, so how we make sure that companies developing solutions can then implement them sustainable with a return for them and for the society. Then we have the societal sustainability, so looking at societal impact, and environmental sustainability. That is, of course, the point of the discussion here at COP. The second pillar is around user-driven, and I think this is also the point of the panel today. How we make sure that digital and space solutions are really developed in a user context for the benefits of the users in the cities and in the society. And the third is to support industry and companies in being competitive in the green economy, in the data economy, and how to deliver these solutions, help them to rolling out into operational systems. We have a strong focus on green economy and green society. The half of the projects in our portfolio are related to delivering green benefits to the community. ESA member states and companies have invested 183 million euros developing more than 300 ideas for the benefits of the green transition into different sectors, from mobility to agri-food to energies. And recently we have launched a task force around cities because we believe that more can be done to connect these solutions to the city's stakeholders. What can space do for cities? So what is it that actually we can develop and we can support companies developing with the aid of space data and satellite technologies? Actually, a lot. And when I speak to people that are not, let's say, experts on space, it's really, I think, a discovery journey because not many know how much is what we are already using that is based on space technology. So first of all, satellite communication. Satellite communication is essential when we speak about IoT data. So the way that these data are relayed is actually more and more with hybrid networks composed of a terrestrial element and a satellite element that helps reaching regions where terrestrial connectivity is insufficient or is undermined by events. Then we have satellite navigation, PNT technology, position navigation and timing, that are used, for example, to geolocate data from sensors and that are important also for tracking of goods, for instance, and assets. And the third element is satellite Earth observation. So we all know data from satellite Earth observation help us monitoring not only climate variables, but really also the growth of the city, the development of the city, for example, and therefore are precious source of information, particularly if and when fused with other sources of data. We have started, actually not today, but already since a few years, launching a number of initiatives supporting the sustainable development of cities and supporting challenges that relate to the cities. And in the area, for example, of circularity, of mobility, of monitoring of cultural heritage sites. And we are looking of doing more in the future, and this is why we started the task force to collaborate and receive guidance from experts that belong to the city and that are knowledgeable about the city challenges to develop more and more opportunities and provide guidance to companies while developing and scaling those projects. I have a few examples just to get you some inspiration, but of course Space can do more. But I have some examples of success stories that we helped and we supported. This one is related to the utilization of data, some from satellite Earth observation, satellites, assets, and others fused with IoT data sensor for monitoring air quality and driving a smart traffic management system based on air quality data. So this one was trialed already in Leicester, in the UK, in London, and there are discussions for implementing also here in Dubai. This other one is about electricity, how to help the utilization and the widespread utilization of electricity in cities. And it's about a system using PNT data, position, navigation and timing, to facilitate the exchange between the cars, the electric cars and the electricity grids. This other one is about trees in the city. So this is also about helping resilience in cities against climate change. So how we can help with the satellite data, with the EO imagery, to identify and monitor the trees' location, and how we can support planners, urban planners, in developing effective solutions to climate resilience. I would tell a little bit more about the Smart Cities Task Force to the panel speakers and soliciting further reflections. So basically, what are the objectives that we want to achieve with this task force? Is to support the advancing of sustainable, innovative service in smart cities, going beyond the notion that smart technologies, but really connecting the technology with the city's needs and with the needs of the citizens populating the cities. Therefore, strengthening and scaling the potential impact that projects such as the ones that I have showcased before can reach if deployed at scale. And we would like, therefore, to offer sort of a matchmaking platform between projects generated through ESA initiative as well as by other partners and cities stakeholders. So we expect as benefit, of course, a higher socio-economic growth and impact. We expect to enhance the opportunity for responsible development and also support companies in their journey from the development to the deployment to the scaling. We have already an initial set of cities that have, let's say, joined from the very first moment the task force, and we are, of course, open to for new members to join. And ICLEI, of course, is also a member of the advisory board that we welcome very much, we have just started, so we are very keen to continue this journey. we have collected the first needs and priorities from the members, the current members of the task force, and we are going to start immediately with two working groups. The first one on urban development and the second one on sustainable mobility. So in the context of urban development, we will talk about digital infrastructure, digital twins, we will talk about automation, robotics. How can space, together with this other technology, deliver on sustainable development? We will address topics like air quality, urban heat, flash floods, also circularity, and what we call a 15-minute city, so the necessity of moving and having a lot of facilities at the citizen disposals within 15 minutes. And in the context of sustainable mobility, we will start immediately with an initiative on electromobility. And then we will also address other topics like mobility as a service, smart traffic management, air mobility, the connected vehicles, and alternative fuels. And of course, we are, in the context of the advisory board, we will discuss together with which other topics will be addressed and how and which opportunity we should develop together. This is just a final slide on conclude on the roadmap. So we would like to, of course, strengthen this and get more partners in cooperating within this task force. We are open to the dialogue to all the interested players. And we would like to, in 2024, after the start in September 2023, really to step up the initiatives that we will conduct in this context and already see the first example of project being scaled through the task force. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rita, for this very thorough presentation, starting from what European Space Agency is doing until to this task force and the working group and the way forward. Obviously, when it comes to smart cities, since it gained traction back in the 1980s, a lot has changed so far. According to the World Economic Forum, the global market for smart cities is projected to reach $2.5 trillion in just 2 years. But despite all these changes and evolutions, the challenge is still that the majority of smart cities agendas and solutions are crafted merely around technology and not for a process through which these technologies to be deployed and transfer the flawed existing systems in line with the broader objectives of creating well-being for citizens and ensuring that ecosystems are regenerated and regenerative sort of ecosystem services for this planet and the population. And I think that's exactly where this conversation is needed, that how a human needs-based perspective could ensure that this task force will not fall into the same sort of trap that majority of the initiatives and sort of programs and projects fell, and make sure that the activities under this task force is informed by a longer-term vision and ensuring that technology is being deployed, including smart-related and space-related technology, in a way that it is delivering and catering to the needs of 11 billion flourishing lives. And on that note, we have the thought leader of Expanded Climate and Innovation Agenda for Cities and Region on this panel, and I would like to ask Dennis Panlin to sort of share their thoughts and ideas and sort of outline and articulate the connection between the Expanded Climate and Innovation Agenda for Cities and the Space for Smart and Green Cities Task Force, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, Dennis, for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you put on my slide, please? And if I can get the clicker. So I would start by saying that smart cities has been one of my great disappointments. It started as something really cool and interesting, that we could use this new digital technology to help people flourish. That has not happened. Smart technology was hijacked by companies and is making the current system more efficient. So we have slightly more efficient car transportation, we have slightly more efficient power transportation, etc. But it's more fast fashion logistic that becomes smarter than people's lives getting better. So I challenge and say that we shouldn't really talk about smart cities. We should talk about compassionate and creative cities with humans at the center. Smartness can be brought in to deliver that, but smart city in itself doesn't have a value. You can be smart. There are people through history that were very smart and evil. And now we have lots of smartness that is not sustainable. So if we just put smartness in the cities, that is not helping, because the cities is not built around human needs. The cities are built around usually corporate interest and short-term dopamine hits that we are building our cities around. So my slide, please. Woo-hoo! The role of digital communication is limited. And that's where I'd like to sort of start with the first point that I have. Now it's up here. So, because it's really, really important. When you talk about smartness, this is the problem with smartness for me, is that comes what we call the static problem approach. You look at current sectors, you say, oh, the problem is transport. Let's make transport smart. No, why should we make transport smart? Even OECD says that's stupid. Why are we moving, is the first question. So if we are already trying to do things in the old system, and that's what we do, we look at current problems, and we look at current sectors. What we say is, yeah, please do that, but that will optimize the current system. What we need to do is put human needs and those who deliver on those. And so that's my first thing is, if you look at the current structure of your project, it's sector-based. Fantastic. Add a human needs perspective to that. That's sort of the first thing. And because what we have, and why is that so important? We call it, to make it simple, the dilemma or the fossil-free typewriter. If we would have had the smart solutions and the kind of approach we have today, 30 years ago, we would have fossil-free typewriters today. Because we try to make the current system, and we would ask, oh, you're typing here. How do we make this fossil-free? Instead of saying, what is the function you have? What are the new smart ways that can really bring these solutions to the floor? And that's the next part, is where we really start talking about the exciting things, and where, especially in Europe, we have a huge problem. We forget that there is one planet, and Europe is a quite small part of that. So we talk about being on a net zero and all these things, but we don't talk about, are these solutions compatible with a world where 11 billion people can live flourishing lives? Or is this just a carbon-free European lifestyle that looks good on paper and we can report it to different measurement tools? And humans are not really being part of that agenda. So people in the Global South say, oh, that's very nice for you. You have this smart new plane going on biofuel that is carbon-free. But when we brought that solution to India, they said, you know that all these things, there's months of food in each tank. So how will people eat around the world if that is your smart solution? So that's where I think space comes in as super exciting, because space is usually extremely resource efficient. So I think this 11 billion filter could really highlight and bring space technology to the forefront, because then we can't be sufficient with 20% improvement. So all of a sudden the space technology can be really catapulted and say, if we need materials, smart solutions for 11 billion people, we cannot just try to look at the next 10, 20%. We usually need 90, 95, 99% improvement. And if you're going up to space, if you're doing things, you look at everything. Every gram matters, and every solution matters. So that's that. And the last one that I want to say is, this is probably the most challenging thing, but it's going from product substitutions to systems. Because usually when you go around and make simple things, oh, we have a new material. Oh, great, says the fast fashion industry. We can claim now we do this better. No, the shirt is not the important thing. It's the wardrobe. What are the business models on that? And again, I think space is the final frontier for smart solutions. You think about it, you don't bring a fast fashion wardrobe into space with a 50-toe pair of shoes. You are thinking exactly on multifunctionality. you're thinking about how you can use that and reuse that for multiple uses. And you think about quality. It needs to withstand a lot of things. And that is what we want in society now. We don't want recycled and circular fast fashion clothing. We need smart wardrobes that have high quality, can be used, and also encourage sustainable lifestyles. And that's my final message. And where I get excited, or maybe a bit worried about this, is that I don't really like the current message. One thing that I lack is the value of space in itself. It's not just there to give us benefit on here on Earth. It's a value in itself to explore space. So I would like at least 5% or a separate strip to be working with, for instance, we're going to launch with the outdoor sector. So how do they, when you're out there enjoying nature, seeing all this, also look into space and appreciate all the mysteries and beauty that are out there? That is really for the heart of human exploration. So space is not just there to give us tools to eat better. It's also something that is part of human nature. So if we can find those kind of things, I sponsor through Kickstarter these sort of bicycle astronomers and others. And I even saw leading sustainability people who don't know about Carl Sagan and the pale blue dot. And I think we need those kind of stories also to really bring the whole challenge into totally different perspectives. So first, human needs. Second, 11 billion people. And third, space has an inherent value. And it's about flourishing life, and it's about us not being dopamine-driven by just consumption, but taking a step back, enjoying nature, enjoying family, enjoying space. So if we can hold hands and show that there are these kind of people, and I think the outdoor industry would be one very interesting partner in saying these are people that are out there and who don't go to the consumption center, who don't think that 250 pair of shoes or a super yacht of 150 meters is the value of life, but enjoying nature and enjoying space. So with that, I stop with my 3 messages. Over to you, Masamba.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dennis. It was very inspiring to hear all those points from you. From human needs, the fact that we need to build all our agendas and programs around human needs. And sometimes when we look into the existing policies and programs, you're sort of working way too siloed and only looking into climate merely as opposed to other aspects. And I really like your message in terms of putting human needs at the center stage. And I think that 11 billion filter that Dennis brought to the table is quite meaningful, but also that final touch of, mentioning that space has its own inherent values is quite meaningful in this context, obviously. And one thing that I think deserves more attention is smartness. It was like last year we had this pleasure of publishing a book with the IPCC lead author on science and technology from AR6. And in the final chapter, we were trying to unpack what is smartness. It's like everything that is linked to digital technology is smart? Or no, there are other types of smartness as well that we can really deploy that. And one of them being moving away from heavily digital solution and looking to other type of solutions that are smart, that are connected to nature and connected to space. And then we can use technology to deliver on those type of solutions, which is very, very meaningful. Moving forward, we have Masamba here that I guess everyone knows him on this panel, but what I would like to highlight here, Masamba, you're running this systemic innovation process through a series of systemic innovation workshops that you started back in June during ESPYs and then New York Climate Change, MENA Climate Week, and so on and so forth until here at COP. And obviously, human needs is also taking center stage in that process. So I would like to hear from you, how do you see the connection to the task force that Rita sort of unpacked and shared the information with us, and the points that, the valid points that Dennis raised, but also knowing that under Rita, Davida, and Kavita's leadership, they are opening this space for collaboration, knowing that this whole environment is evolving, and local leaders are finding it challenging to match past performances with the existing tools and approaches, so they need new approaches to tackle the challenges. And I see this value in this task force that is heavily collaborative and my colleagues at the European Space Agency have constantly reiterated that they want everyone come to the table and share their thoughts. So how do you see the connection points with the work that you are doing and how your work can inform the activities under this task force? The floor is yours.
Thank you. The collaboration between the UN Climate Change Global Innovation Hub and the work that the European Space Agency is doing is extremely important. And it is so because the digital technology from space are extremely powerful and have the potential to actually deliver on the human needs and deliver on transformative solutions. One of the problems that we are facing and that need to be addressed is that we are mixing up all the time goals, means, and constraint. Most of the time, the means that we are using to satisfy ultimate goal are taken at the end as the final goal. So it means that I fully agree with what Dennis was saying. We do not need smart city. At the end of the day, what we want is caring, sharing, and daring city. The smart aspect, digital technology, should be considered as a means to get there. But it should not be considered as the purpose. Then I think we are confusing things. One important aspect that we need to take into account if we want to build these caring and sharing and daring cities is to really go back to the many people and their needs. Needs is here the key word. When we are setting goal and objective, we need to set them based on what is needed, not what seems possible to us. And it's why what we are saying is our goal is to use innovation so that we can provide flourishing life for 11 billion people in a healthy world. This is what is needed. We do not have yet all the solutions. We have some of them. Others are missing. But the gap between these objectives that we want to achieve and our current capability is precisely what innovation will have to fill. And this is precisely what needs to drive innovation. The second aspect is the way we are using innovation currently will not solve all our problems. Again, I will insist it's not about saying we need to stop that. It has to continue, but we need to be mindful that it's not enough. We have to go beyond. So the current way we are using innovation, focusing at the sectoral level, can only lead to incremental change. It will not achieve the transformative solution, the transformative change that are needed for us to be able to transition towards the regenerative world that we would like to build. And we have very concrete examples. Actually, there is a lot of hype around electric vehicle and the need to move from combustion car to electric vehicle. Of course, this is something that is needed, but we need to be mindful that this is far from being enough. And I agree with Dennis, the first question that we need to ask is why car? Why car at the first place? Can we use innovation to achieve the need behind car with less car? Can we use the Space Digital Agency, the Space Digital Solution, like GPS, GIS, remote sensing, drone, that will help us do land planning, that will help us do site selection, that will help us build a city in which most of the product and services will be available within 15-minute distance. The 15-minute city that you are referring to. So this will enable to reduce the need for motorized transportation. We can even go one step further and ask ourselves, why don't we use digital technology to reduce the need for mobility itself? Because mobility is not a purpose. Mobility is a means. The purpose behind mobility is access to products and services. Can we use digital technology to access education without trip to school? Can we use innovation for telecommuting and replace trip to office as well as office space? When I'm saying that, I'm not saying that we should not be mobile, but it should not be a constraint, something absolutely necessary for us to be able to get product and services. So if we do not have this focus on the human needs as starting point, it will be very difficult for us to be able to develop the transformative solutions that are needed for the transition to a regenerative world. We need also to have this system thinking and be very much mindful that this will require collaboration. Going back to the core human need and bringing a transformative solution cannot be done in silo. And this is maybe one of the challenges that we will be facing. We need to come up with innovative business model that will facilitate bringing together entities with different interests and make them work together through new pattern of collaboration, through new pattern of cooperation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Masamba. I really enjoyed it because it was definitely complementary to what also Dennis mentioned. And before I continue, I would like to flag something to the audience. We would love to have an interactive conversation. So if any of you have any question or even a comment that you think you would like to share, please feel free to raise your hand and we'd be happy to pass the mic to you because like at the end of the day, that is a collaborative space. Back to the point that you mentioned, I really like how you were sort of reminding all of us that we should make sure that this is a smart city. The whole notion of a smart city is not supposed to be an end, or even technology deployment in the broader sense is not supposed to be an end, but actually a means for achieving what we need, in this case, human needs. And obviously, I had the luxury of being engaged in all these three initiatives, from task force to expand the climate and innovation agenda to systemic innovation process through this series of workshops. And I obviously see that like how these two agendas, like the process and the agenda, are heavily interlinked, and they can inform the work and activities under this task force. For example, the example that you both mentioned was about transportation and the example of mobility. And I think during the pandemic, despite all the challenges that it posed to human lives, it also showed that change can happen so quickly if the demand is there, right? I was reading a report from Harvard Business School that before the pandemic, in Western Europe and North America, only 15% of the people had experienced working from home, while during the pandemic, it hit 70%. It's not supposed to say that, like, oh, we should just, like, do all the work from home. But it's the fact that when we think differently, when we take a step back and ask, why do we need to, like, travel as if we work? Then we can have a plethora of different options that could obviously support the broader objectives of sustaining and making sure this planet is sort of the way we are using the resources of this planet is sustainable, but also like the new innovative ways of achieving the needs that all of us have in our communities. And the e-health, for example, Masamba, is a big trend that is, changing the landscape and in cities. And then another point that I want to connect that to what Dennis mentioned in terms of, like, looking only in Europe as opposed to other parts of the world. We all know that this coming billions of population are mostly in Africa and Asia. We were speaking with other colleagues in Asia Pacific Urban Forum in October that at the midpoint of the SDGs, the overall progress of achieving SDG in Asia and Pacific is only 14.4%, as opposed to expected 50%. So it's like, even within the existing agendas that like we have a lot of questions and critics at this point, and we all are aware of it, we're not on the right track, let alone like delivering on what we actually need to deliver on that. So now, Rita, with what we discussed here with Dennis and Masamba in terms of making sure that the work that is being done under this task force needs to cater to the needs of human and making sure that it's not reinforcing the existing systems and just taking sectoral approach, rather it's you know, sort of cross-cutting and making sure that the technology, and this including space related technology and data, is not supposed to sort of be seen as an end, rather as means for this purpose. What are the plans that you and your team and department have sort of in place to make sure that the technology that you're working on will actually cater to the needs of humans?
Yes, I think it's of course a work in progress. It's a challenge that we have. I would say we at ESA, but hopefully collaboratively also together we have for the next years. Well, you spoke, Dennis, about space as, let's say, inspiration. Space as getting closer to nature, right? And I would also add the space as a symbol of collaboration. When we think about the International Space Station, we think about astronauts from all the world, actually, working together, experimenting together, pursuing innovation together. I think ESA stands for international collaboration in Europe and beyond Europe, and this is what we want to do, for sure. And I truly believe that although we have a long history of doing this, I think indeed I take the reflection that we are sometimes too technology focused, no? So here with the task force we want to change that approach. Together with you and with your help, we want to put the needs of the citizens on top of it. I take the example of the mobility. And here we are working, of course, with the experts in the mobility sector, because in order for this solution to be then deployed, whatever they means, we need to involve the sectors, but the sectors are not driving the needs. So with the cities task force, we want to collaborate, first of all, with the stakeholders in the cities and with the authorities, with the other groups that are working on this, in order to define, first of all, what are the needs in terms of sustainable developments. And then afterwards see what are the projects that we could pursue and we could help developing those concepts and addressing those needs. We were mentioned about the pandemic and the paradigm shift that this has caused. So together with a set of actors and also governments, we have put forward some calls to support teleeducation, to support teleworking, how satellite communication to help to embrace those new paradigms during the pandemics. And I think here we are now called, of course, by the climate emergency to embrace new models like the 15-minute cities and like other models of sustainable development. This is what we want to achieve with the task force. And of course, I truly believe that the utilization of space can be scaled at a much broader scale at the service of this imperative and this need.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rita. I really appreciate that. And I think this space, this whole space of sustainability and climate is filled with a lot of noises. And, you know, when you're talking about some sort of topics that you genuinely believe, such as this human needs-based approach, you might come across some other topics that may actually contradict it. And but like it is really important to make sure that like we all need to take a step back and really revisit the way we are approaching this whole sustainability in general. And I'm so glad that just you mentioned about the calls that you're developing under this task force, and I can just like, you know, sort of share a little bit that like the messaging that you communicated to me, in the sense that you would like to design these calls with the other organizations, and making sure that like the perspective that other partners bring to the table will be influential in the design of it, so that like there's a meaningful connection with the companies, but also cities, in terms of those solutions that are being designed and implemented within the context of the cities under this task force. Dennis, a lot of ideas and discussions mentioned and discussed here, and I think we have some levels of understanding, obviously not to the fullest, but some levels of understanding as to which direction the activities under this task force should go. But I would like to ask you, what is needed to make sure what we discuss here will turn to realities, and ensuring that the impact of this task force will be maximized in line with delivering for flourishing lives for 11 billion people?
It's a very good question. I think there's a couple of answers to that. I think first of all is to be happy for what's been done and build on that. So not start something totally new, but also see how do we build on what's done here. We work with companies. We do this sort of the mapping and say, okay, so how much are you currently on the static problem approach? Because that's been dominating for the last 30 years. Everyone is part of that challenge, myself included. And then how do we move from more to a human needs agenda? What are the first steps? I would like to challenge ourselves or myself. When I was invited to another space initiative, I said, I also want this initiative to challenge all business and ask, how are you contributing to space exploration? So it's not just us giving you something, but also that exploring space is maybe one of the things that really can bring humanity together, and that each company should also look at, what can I do to help this, to bring us out to be a space civilization? Something, because I think that's one of these things that can bring us all together. The International Space Station, fantastic, but that was just the first step. What's beyond that? So that was one thing, and the other part is really bring wisdom into the discussion, because I think most people who've been to space, most people who think deeply about space, reach a bit of a reflective state of, like the pale blue dot and Carl Sagan, who talks about these little small things hovering in space, and that we all share this little place. And by having that reflection of space is something I think we should also encourage and have people. And that's why I also, not just the companies, but also cities. All cities should have a way to encourage, especially the youth, to be able to access and understand more about space. So part of the smart city, wisdom city, 11 billion city is also to say, where do we explore the understanding of the very nature of things, the quantum level, but also the furthest reaches of the universe, space. These are the two obvious things that brains go to when you start to reflect. And everyone with a child will have them asking things about space and about nature. So I would like that to be more part of that also, that it's something deeper. Now it feels a bit too defensive and instrumental. We want to show that we can help the world with our technology, but we have more to give. So maybe it's there, but I would like it to be more prominent. And I also want, if we come in, we would like to challenge you to say, it should also be the other way around. The company should also help us get into space, so they have something meaningful. If you sell some clothing, etc., it's nice. And these things you can bring outdoor. But if that can also be brought into that kind of technology, that also can bring us out to space, that is something very exciting. That's my 2 points in terms of bringing wisdom into the whole thing, but also that we all share this journey towards space, and that every one of us feels that we are in some way contributing to that.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Your examples and perspectives that you offer is always inspiring. This reminded me of a sentence from a colleague, Mei Li Fang, who is the co-chair of IEEE and one of the co-authors of Country Climate Clubs, that she was saying that we need to start measuring immeasurables. A number of times that a mom hugs their children, and the number of times that you look into sky and really sort of that serotonin type of neurotransmitter that sort of produced in your body. But this whole brain science that you mentioned, I'm sure there is a dedicated session. I invite all the audience to join that session as well. It's a very exciting one. We're looking forward to that. But I would like to ask Masamba, knowing that you are not only running the systemic innovation workshops, but also connected to a lot of initiatives and trying to sort of create this harmony in line with the principles that you have under the systemic innovation process, including, or chief among them, a human needs perspective. How do you think the collaboration within this space and task force should move forward? What needs to be done within the course of 1 year so that next COP there is a meaningful messaging coming out of the collaboration within the next 12 months?
I think we have already our vision that are fully aligned. Now we need to have some form of cross-pollination. So we need to be within your governance system and then invite you to join our governance system, particularly our Systemic Innovation Workshop. Our Systemic Innovation Workshop are actually designed in the same way as what you have described. Our starting point is always the determination of the needs in the future. We have a longer-term perspective, and it's about really defining the needs of the many people. And it's focused on not how many renewable power plants we can implement, how many capacity they should have, but more about how individual citizens will satisfy their core human need: nutrition and health, shelter, access to products and services, leisure, clothing, education, energy. That's very, very important, and that should be the starting point. And from there, we backcast and translate these needs into challenge and bring all the relevant stakeholders around this challenge so that we can address this challenge. This Systemic Innovation Workshop could be a way forward, and we need possibly we can start collaborating around this Systemic Innovation Workshop.
Thank you so much, Masamba. That was super helpful. This conversation can go on for another hour, but we are at a time. Thank you so much to all of you, audience, for your engagement and listening to this wonderful conversations from 3 wonderful colleagues. So thank you so much, Rita, for your time, Dennis and Masamba, for sharing your insights in this. And I'm hoping that next year we could have the same session and saying that we achieved tangibly through the collaboration between Systemic Innovation Workshop Series, Expanded Climate and Innovation Agenda, and the Task Force for Green and Smart Cities, some tangible outputs and outcomes that we can demonstrate and showcase to our audience to build upon that in the coming years. Thank you, and have a lovely afternoon.